All right, welcome to Rad Futures. This is episode 6. And today I'm going to be talking with Misty. Do you want to say your last name?
Wyscarver.
Wyscarver. So talking to Misty Wyscarver today. I've done a couple videos now about the student loan debt crisis. And this is video number 3 in that series. So Misty is a mother of 4 with $194,000 in student and parent plus loan debt. Due to being middle class, Misty's family was not eligible for many of the grants and other programs of assistance for education. Her children were only eligible for Pell grants under the condition that they would both be enrolled at the same time. Misty divorced in 2016, and the majority of the student loan debt fell on her shoulders, and she currently owes $194,000, while the ex-husband owed $40,000. Misty has worked in the public service sector for over 34 years and is enrolled in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program on the income-based repayment plan. If you have any student loans, you know exactly what that means. As it stands in 2022, Misty has to work 9 more years to earn forgiveness because her last child graduated from college in 2020. She remarried in 2017. Her and her husband must file their taxes, married filing separately, so the loan payment is based on Misty's income only. Because they're not her husband's children, his income should not be factored into the loan payment. Misty is fighting for student loan cancellation and education funding reform. For Misty, we cannot pass this on to future generations. This crisis affects more than just the 45 million student and parent debtors in the United States. It affects their spouses, their children, grandchildren, aging parents, and local economies. Every American is affected by student debt. We must change the course of this crisis. So Misty, welcome to Rad Futures. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today. And I really wanted to ask you questions. We met on Twitter, and I wanted to ask you some questions, particularly around the things that you mentioned in your bio. So you know, you obviously have quite a bit of student and parent plus loan debt. What you have, I believe what you have is on the lower end, actually. Most people have over 200,000. And I spoke with a gentleman today who attested to the fact that a lot of medical students end up with, you know, basically 500,000 to 600,000 at the end of the day after the interest is factored in. So my question, I guess, for you is thinking about what you've been through, what you know about the student and parent plus loans and the crisis that this is causing so many other people like yourself in the country. What I guess, what do you have to say, or what would you like to say? What do you feel is the most problematic kind of aspect of the parent plus loan debt problem?
I think people are just ignorant of the crisis that parents are facing. When my first child went to school, she was accepted into Western Carolina University in North Carolina. And we went and we met with the financial aid office, and they gave us a bill, and it was wonderful. It was tuition, housing, food, everything right there, $22,000. Okay, great. What can you offer, in financial aid? And they said, oh, well, she can apply for a student loan, and whatever's left, you can apply for a parent plus loan. And we know students are limited. The undergrad students are limited to $27,000 by the federal government.
Yeah.
There's no parent plus loans. So basically, we were writing a blank check every year.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband now, he just can't understand. He's like, didn't you realize what you were doing? Didn't you realize? And I said, it's so different from when we went to school. He and I both went to Muskingum College, which is now Muskingum University. And when we went in the 80s, we had scholarships, we had financial aid, we had grants. We did not pay near, the total amount. All of these things help bring the cost down. That didn't happen with my, there was nothing to bring the cost really, other than two of my children were resident assistants. So they did receive a stipend, and they also received a reduction in housing. But that still left, the bill over $20,000 for each year that they were at the university. My youngest daughter had never played golf before in her life, other than miniature golf whenever we went on vacation. She saw that the university, and she went to West Liberty University in West Virginia. They were having open tryouts for the golf team. And she's an athlete. And so we knew that a lot of schools had a hard time filling female golf scholarships. So she applied, tried out for the team, made the team. She was terrible, but she got a little bit of money each year then. Maybe only like $1,500. I think the most she ever received was $2,000 a year. And like you said in my bio, they only got Pell grants when there were two of the kids enrolled in college at the same time. And when I wasn't married. When I got married, they didn't get any Pell grants, because we didn't realize at the time that filing separately really was an option and would be better, in the better interest of the kids' financial outlook.
So that whole Pell Grant thing it kind of blows my mind. I mean, it's almost seems to me like rigged, where, if you want this money to go to college, you have to also enroll another kid. But, and then it poses the problem where, okay, well then, are they both going to want to stay in the same degree program? Are they going to continue? Are they both going to get the degree that they set out to get in the beginning? How much extra money is it going to cost to finish? Because, the Pell Grants it's only a certain amount, right? It runs out after a short while. They're not like big, giant sums of money.
No, you're talking $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
On a $20,000, $30,000 bill.
So in order for one to get the Pell Grant, you had to have another child who was a guaranteed extra tens of thousands for the institution and the banks, right?
Correct.
So that's odd. And so what else was I going to ask you about? In your bio, you also said, okay, so you divorced in 2016 and you remarried in 2017. So would you say that you were a single mom in that year between 2016 and 2017, or was it not really like that?
No, I was a single mom, because the children were all over the age of 18. So I wasn't receiving any child support. There was no spousal support. So yes, I was a single mom.
And I mean, let's say hypothetically, I mean, you obviously got remarried, so it's not the case, but let's say hypothetically you had stayed single, and you would be single today. How do you think that this situation would have affected you had you not had a second income in your household?
Well, right now, my payments have been low before the pandemic. And once we did the married filed separately, and the payments were only based on my income, they were manageable. Now, being married, I do have someone that shares in the household bills. Being a single parent without a spouse, there would have been no way to make those payments and to pay for utilities and taxes and everything else that goes with home ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So let's go to the second paragraph. So you said that you've been working in the public service sector for over 34 years. You're enrolled in the public service loan forgiveness program on the income-based repayment plan. But as it stands in 2022, today, you have to work 9 more years to earn forgiveness.
Yes,
Because your last child graduated from college in 2020. So,
correct. As of right
yeah.
now, that is the case, because the loans are they're consecutive. They're not concurrent. I can't combine the 3 kids plus loans,
Mhm.
or counts for qualifying payments go back to 0. That doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't have to keep doing this 10 years and this 10 years and this 10 years. With the waiver, and because I have some student debt left over from my degree, which I graduated from college in 2009, so I do still carry a little bit of debt from that in my name. The waiver applies to me, and if I can combine all of my loans, we're hoping that I can pick up a few more years of qualifying payments, so that if they're combined, it would be the highest payment count on each of the loans equally, so that maybe I don't have to work 9 years. But as it is right now, we don't know if that's going to work, because the public service loan forgiveness waiver does not apply to parent loans. It exclusively leaves them out.
Mm.
They are not qualified to
And
be used
yeah,
in that. And the whole idea with the public service loan forgiveness program is it is an income-based payment. You have to be, especially if it's a parent plus loan, you have to use the income contingent payment plan, the ICR. That's the only one that parent plus loans can have and qualify for public service loan forgiveness. You can't do standard, you can't do the graduated, you can't do any of that. It's only the ICR. And so my payments are probably not touching any of the principal. I am held hostage right now. There's no way that I could get out of the program, because my payments would go way up.
Mhm.
One of the letters that I got last week from FedLoan, that potentially my payments could be $2,000 a month, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, if I'm not in the public service loan forgiveness program.
Mhm.
There's I can pay that. I only make $50,000 a year.
Mhm.
There's no way that I can pay that. There's no way, even if I got a second job, that I could put any money towards this, that I could pay it down.
Yeah. I think of these doctors, these medical students who, the 6% that don't get matched every year and end up racking up 6 figures of student loan debt. Um, what are they, what are people like, and yourself as well.
Mhm.
What are people supposed to do? I mean, there's so many people who have various degrees, right? Today, a BA is more like a blue collar kind of associate's certificate or something, because it doesn't really do much anymore because the market is oversaturated with BA degrees. So people go get their master's degree. Well, that's an extra, several $1,000s, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on where you go to school, tacked on to whatever your loan balance is. Some people think, well, I'm going to keep going because if I go past a master's and I get a doctorate, or whatever, then I'm really going to be making money, right? So you have all these people, or you go to law school or something. So you have all these people who have all this debt. They get out, they graduate, and oh, surprise, it's like it's actually a lot harder to find a well-paying job out here now. And the sort of corporate narrative that is pushed in the media is that you're a bad borrower if you have this excessive amount of debt and you can't afford to pay it back. The fact that you want the government to forgive your loans means that you're a grifter, right? Because you made bad decisions, and they would look at you and they would say, well, you made a bad decision by allowing your child to go to this or that school, right? Because that school's tuition was too expensive. You should have sent them to a different school. I mean, they're going to say all kinds of different things because there's a narrative that they need to uphold. But at the end of the day, I mean, people like you who have families, and you are, how, do you mind me asking how old you are?
I am 55.
You're 55, you're looking toward retirement, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, and I mean, I've heard stories recently of people who are having their Social Security checks garnished because they can't afford to make all of their payments, or stopped paying entirely because they don't have an income aside from Social Security. And then their Social Security starts getting garnished. And, I know people on Social Security, and 15% of your Social Security check getting garnished is a lot of money when you're not getting a lot of money.
It
So,
is. This is a multi-generational crisis
yeah,
that is going to get worse. It's not going to get better unless we stop it and fix it.
yeah,
Because even in my family, there are 3 generations affected right now, soon to be a 4th. You know, um, there may be grandchildren at some point in the future, but my mother is affected because the second year my daughter was in school, I couldn't get approved for a loan. So my mom and my daughter went and they got a private loan with Wells Fargo.
mm,
When my daughter graduated, that loan was for like $12,000 to $14,000. When my daughter graduated, she got an email from Wells Fargo that said, "Here's the payment plan," and the life of the payment, the life of the loan, she would have tripled the original loan in order to pay it back. My mom um, had the means that she just said, "Bailey, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm just going to pay the loan." So my mom paid the loan. I am paying loans. My children are paying loans. And then there's no money left over, like I say, for that 4th generation, of grandkids coming. What's going to happen with them? Um, I've been saying recently that it's not just the 45 million borrowers, it's their parents that are suffering. So 45 million people, there might be 90 million parents, their spouses, there's maybe another 20 million in spouses. Maybe children, maybe there's 22 million, maybe there's 10 million. And you think about the grandchildren, we're up to well over 150 million people closely affected, not to mention your local businesses, your employers. It's affecting all Americans. So
yeah,
when people, why don't you pay my car loan? Why don't you pay my mortgage? Student debt is affecting you whether you believe it or not. It
mhm,
is. And so we have to do something. We can't do this. This bubble is busting
mhm,
because realizing all of these, all this legislation and the no bankruptcy rules and the student loan companies with their fees and their interest and their predatory lending, it is killing us.
yeah,
And have to stop this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I like to mention to people who don't know anything about this and like to throw out all kinds of insults, at borrowers, is the fact that 10% of our country's GDP, it's just about 10% of our GDP is made up of student loan debt. And one writer, I came across an article, described it in their article as the equivalent to Soylent Green, because, in the GDP, usually you want to be producing something. You're producing some kind of a product that is purchased and consumed, either in the country or overseas. 10% of our gross domestic product is like this Soylent Green self-consumption. Basically, we're 10% of our GDP exists on the back of the student loan borrowers, who are primarily low income or lower middle class kind of people who don't come from excessive wealth, obviously. And I'm sure most people, if they would have the money, would pay for college outright with cash.
Right.
It wouldn't be an issue. It's not a rich youth problem, because rich people don't need to take student loans.
Exactly.
So basically, the banking institutions and the institutions of higher education have coerced together, with politicians in government like Joe Biden, and they have institutionalized this new serfdom. Really, it's a new serfdom, where it's one way to keep people kind of in their lane. I think, if you're coming from, a lower class sort of background, or a single parent family, single sort of income family. People do want to go to school and get educated and stuff like that, but it's like, if you try to do it, you're penalized. This is like a penalization.
Exactly. Don't you see it? We've been saying on Twitter that the interest, that is, it's criminal. But when you look at it, like you explained with the GDP, it's really cannibalistic.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
it's definitely feeding off of the poor, feeding off of those who are in debt. Even my husband had a hard time understanding this. He really did. He's like, didn't you realize what you were getting into? Didn't you realize, how much debt you're gonna have to pay this back? And I would tell him, it wasn't a loan for $194,000. It was 15,000 this semester, 10,000 this semester. You know, um, maybe 18 this semester or this year. And I said, the other thing is, my income didn't go up, but the kids are helping me pay, because I did tell them, these are your loans. I'm signing these, but I don't want to sign away my life. So my daughter is working as a librarian. She's also enrolled in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. But when you look at her career and where she is now, 10 years is nothing for her. I'm 55. 10 years could be the end of my life.
Mhm.
We don't know what tomorrow brings. I am eligible for retirement, but I can't.
Mm.
When my husband and I were talking, and we talked about people struggling to pay their loans, I just saw a job posting that was a part-time position at a library that was going to pay $14 an hour, and they wanted you to have a bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
Part-time,
Mhm.
14 an hour. How could you make the payments for that? The other story that I told my husband when we were talking about this last year, we were looking in the newspaper. The local preschool was offering positions to be a preschool teacher. They were paying less than $15 an hour and also a bachelor's degree.
Yep. I went to school for 17 years, and all of the jobs that I've had that were related to the degree that I originally went for, which was anthropology and art history, never paid me more than about 15 an hour. The most that I made, and this was the most recent position, and this is after graduate school, the most that I made was 16, I want to say 16.25 an hour. 17 years. And I was sort of fed a dream, you know, every time I would talk to my advisors, they would be very optimistic. I didn't have anyone at any point of my journey in academia sit me down and say, you need to think about this and look at the reality of the job market, because it's not, you know, I mean, what are you going to do with an anthropology degree unless you're going for a tenure track position? In which case, good luck, because those are extremely hard to come by. So I think myself and a lot of other people, I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter recently in the past few days, especially just discussing their regret, you know, just saying, I wish I never would have done any of this because it has ruined my ability to purchase a home. It's ruined my ability to basically put away any kind of savings, start any kind of retirement account. You can't do anything because all of your money is literally going to pay these fucking loans that are pretty much you're beholden to in perpetuity because they don't have an expiration date, you know, and you can't file bankruptcy on them. There are people who've actually ended up like with their wages garnished. They've ended up in prison, you know, and it's just like, it's crazy. If people knew the extent to which these banks go, it's despicable, it's disgusting, it's immoral, and it's unjust, and it should not be happening in the United States of America.
No, it should not. I know people that have had their tax returns garnished. I worry, what if I lose my job? What if my husband would lose his job? You know, what would happen? Would they take my pension? I'm a state employee. Is my pension safe? Is my pension going to be garnished just like Social Security is? It has to change. It just has to.
Yeah. And I mean, normally, you know, I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm not a huge proponent of let's give everybody free money because I get the economics behind all of that. But I think it's in our country's best interest to forgive all student loan debt, because right now it makes up that 10% of the GDP. And if that bubble pops, we go into a recession. And I don't think most people understand that, you know. And we haven't, you know, there's all this talk. Biden is always saying, you know, the economy is doing really great, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've done this, I've done that. 2022 it's looking great, it's healthy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, yeah, okay. Let us take a step back for a second and recognize the fact that there have been no payments on any student loans in that time. And I think that was strategically done because there are people up there in Washington and elsewhere who know exactly what the fuck is going on. And they knew that if they would have allowed those payments to continue, we would have a fucking shit show on our hands right now. You know, you can't make a statement that the economy is healthy without first testing that last 10% of the GDP, which is just magically sitting there stable right now, you know? So
Right.
I mean, it's like, let's test it. Sure, let's restart those payments, Biden. You
And
want to
I,
test the economy? Let's see how it goes, because I don't think people are going to be able to swing it. How many people who are borrowers still don't have a job after losing their job during COVID? How many of them got sick and died? How many of them are still paying off health insurance or, you know, health bills and all kinds of things? How many of them are still catching up on rent? You know, who knows? We have no idea. And to say that the economy is healthy is absolutely ridiculous, in my
if it's
opinion.
healthy, then we can cancel it all. Because I'm definitely like you. I am a proponent for canceling it all. I don't care if a doctor maybe gets his paid. If you only give me 50,000, and that's a max, possible max, I'm still going to have 144,000. I would still not be able to retire. I would still have to work 9 more years. No positive outcome for giving me 50,000. If you really want to help people, you need to cancel it all, because you have done this to everyone. You should be just as mad. You know, people have thrown around giving people tax credits and things like that. Like I say, it's not just the 45 million. We are a loud voice because we are more than 45 million. We are every American, and we
Mhm.
are demanding an end to this crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's so many things I could say. Yeah. I just, you know, I mean, as Lisa Ansell said, Biden has been given an extraordinarily unique opportunity by the universe, where he gets the chance to right some of his past wrongs this time around.
Yes.
Um, you know, and I mean, it's like, is he going to do it? Is he going to take it? Is he going to make the choice to be a moral, just person? My understanding of him and his character tells me no. But, you know, maybe, I hope he does. I do. I really do. I think I really want to stay optimistic.
The other thing that worries me too, with um, me having to work 9 more years possibly, with the act that they passed last year that made it so that if your loans were forgiven, you didn't have to pay taxes on that, because that's how it was before. If your loans were forgiven, you had to pay taxes on that. That expires in 4 more years. It was only
Mm,
for 5 years. I'm going to turn around and be victimized again if
mhm.
then I have this huge tax bill to pay. I just feel like there's no way I can win this at all. And it's not just me.
Yeah, and you know, a bunch of the politicians, a bunch of the Democratic politicians are floating this, you know, 50 magical 50,000 figure around on Twitter, like, yeah, let's forgive up to 50,000, like it's some big number. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but most of the people I know who have any kind of student loan debt are well into the 6 digits. 50,000 isn't going to do shit for them,
Exactly.
especially if they don't change the interest, because once they can forgive 50,000 and it may lower, you know, whatever it is, by $50,000, but once that interest is applied again, you're right back up to the same balance that you were originally anyway. So
Hmm.
it's not going to help anybody. 50,000 isn't going to help anybody. And I feel like it's lip service in order to carry them through to the midterm elections.
I
And,
agree.
you know, I'm just like, come on. Like, I'm so tired of lip service. I really want people to, you know, in positions of power, when you get elected to a position of power like that, you have a moral responsibility. You have a social responsibility to the people who got you there. you know, and
You're there to be our voice.
yeah. And I'm sure there's all kinds of lobbyists surrounding these people all the time, offering them money and gifts if they do this and don't do that. But, for fuck's sake, grow a pair and say no, you know, stand on your own 2 feet. Like, whatever happened to people with good character? So I don't know. I really hope, I really hope Biden does the right thing. And I hope that the Democrats who hopefully are listening to people like you on Twitter, people like myself, people like Lisa, will, I'm praying that they do the right thing too.
Yes, keep contacting your senators, your representatives. Contact the other senators and representatives that are in other states.
Mhm.
Put pressure on, call them, email them, send them letters. We have to be just as powerful as the lobbyist with our voice,
Yes.
and as loud as we can.
Yeah. And one last thing I wanted to say too, I just kind of want to float this out there because I don't know if it was you or someone else this morning shared the idea of a class action lawsuit. I saw that and I was like, a light bulb kind of went off because I was like, well, that is one route that could be taken. Finding a law firm that would take that on would be the harder kind of thing to do. But a class action lawsuit where you have 45 million people interested in pursuing this in some court of law, I feel like it should go to criminal court, because what they are doing should be classified as criminal.
And they know they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's not unintentional, it's intentional.
It is intentional. It's meant to keep people in their lane. So, unless you're super, super, super duper lucky and you get out, fresh out of college and get a 6-figure salary and you're able to put down a lot of nice chunky payments toward your loans. Awesome. Perfect. Great. Awesome. But that is not what usually happens.
No, especially if you're a preschool teacher and you're only going to make $14 an hour.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and academia, academies and universities, colleges need to be held to account as well because they are complicit and, they facilitate a process that is criminal, and actually constructing a paradigm like this with the banks is organized crime in some sense because you have more than one actor involved. So, they basically have people writing them blank checks, as you said, and that's pretty fucked up, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, hold the colleges, universities to account. Hold the banks to account. Start class action lawsuits. Fuck yeah, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Yeah, like you said, don't give up on contacting your senators and your congress people. Spam the shit out of them. Go to their Twitter pages, do whatever you need to do, but get the point across. Has this debt prevented you from doing anything that you wanted to do? Like, has it prevented you from purchasing a home? Has it prevented you from anything?
Well, I would love to start a business. I would love to retire. Those to me are a little bit kind of selfish, me. But this debt also is going to affect, the care that I could give my mother. My mother is 75.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's aging, and there are things that I need to do to help, you know, take care of her. Um, I would love to start a business. When I went to buy a vehicle a couple years ago, it definitely affected my debt to income ratio, and I had to explain to my lender, wait a minute, I'm in the public service loan forgiveness. I know it looks like I owe this much money, but hopefully, you know, I work so many more years, it's going to be forgiven. And I was able to get a loan, but I'm not going out and actively buying a new car. I have a 2009 Kia van. I shop at Aldi's. My house is 120 years old. I need a new roof. Uh, if I didn't have student debt, I would probably get a loan for a new roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many aspects of your life that do get affected by it. Um, Depression, anxiety
Mhm.
that you get from this debt looming over you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What about someone, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. What about someone who would come to you and say, well, you're a fucking idiot because you did this for your kids, but your kids are grown adults. Why aren't they paying on their own loans?
My kids are helping me. They are, of course, right now, you know, the payments are paused, but they were making the payments, helping with that. Legally, they're not theirs. Legally, they're mine.
Mhm.
I could try to transfer them to them. Maybe they could take out their own personal loan, but I doubt it. They already have student debt. Can you see them really going to a bank and saying, I need to borrow $100,000 so I can pay my mom?
And you,
It,
you as their mother, you don't want them to be burdened anyway, right? So there's like some sentimental stuff in there too, right?
that- that's why I haven't retired. That's why I am in the public service loan forgiveness um, program. One, so that maybe I can get them forgiven. Two, with the income contingent payment plan, my payments are lower. If I did a standard payment, their payments would be higher to me, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yes, they have their loans too. Um, Both my younger son and daughter have between 20 and 30,000 at least in their names because they were maxed out. And my daughter went to graduate school, and I think her total in her name is about 68,000 right now.
Okay. Well, you're a good woman. I applaud you. I know how difficult it must be. I know the struggle myself because I obviously have loans myself and I have a family. Um, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm getting a little bit emotional here because I see you as a good person, and I feel even more emotional and angry about what's going on in this country because you're one person. I'm one person. There's 45 million people who are going through this, and they have all kinds of different circumstances. Can you imagine? I mean, it's mind blowing. And if you sit and try to wrap your head around it, it's absolutely mind blowing.
There
Um,
are a lot of people that have it worse than me, and I recognize that. Yes, I owe 194,000, but yes, I have a job. I do have a husband. My children are helping me, but I am the one. I am one. And like you said, there are so many others whose stories are much, much worse.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
They don't want to put their story out there. You know,
No,
the people that I've talked to, they're like, no, I just can't. I'm too embarrassed.
right.
Or I don't want people to know this.
Yeah. Which I understand, and I just think about it's like you, myself, and it does predominantly affect women. Like there's, and I kind of like, I wonder on some level, I don't want to get too conspiratorial about it, but I do feel like some of this is engineered, to keep certain types of people out of positions of power, or
Oh,
at least to make it harder for them to get there.
I shared that article yesterday that was in the Rolling Stone, and it was a former FBI undercover agent, and he talked about the group base and the other white supremacist groups that are in cahoots right now, and things that they've been doing. Definitely there are people, and we catch that on Twitter. There's those people, you just don't write misogynistic tweets unless you really feel that way. You don't just say
Absolutely.
all of it. Yes, 2/3 of women have student debt. I know Lisa Ansell said yesterday, of course we know, and you might have said it too, because I listened to it yesterday. We know that these women are not getting as many scholarships. They're not getting as much funding. The same with the minorities. They're having higher payments, and we have lower paying jobs prospects when we get out of here because we're
Yeah.
not.
But I like the idea of a class action lawsuit. I think, class action lawsuit where nobody gets money, but they just eliminate the fucking debt.
I mean, I don't know how many people were in together for that case against Navient, but it made some progress, and it definitely brought to light some of the things that Navient did wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Great Lakes did that to me. Nelnet did that to me. Fed Loan did that with me. Let's just put it off. Let's just put it off. Forbearance. Like when Matt and I first got married and we filed together, we didn't realize that my loan payments were going to be like $1,000 a month. And then I'm reading, oh no, you need to file separately. So during that year, while we were waiting, we put it into forbearance. And there's a year that I lost in PSLF because I couldn't pay $1,000. There's no way. So just that kind of criminality they knew what they were doing, putting people into forbearance and longer than they wanted. I know there were times that I would say, I just can't pay this much. Well, we'll just put you in forbearance for 6 months. I'm like, I don't need 6 months. I just need this month. Well, we'll just 6 months.
Right. Meanwhile, the interest keeps accruing. Yeah. Yeah. It's criminal. They're criminals.
I did watch the Sally May Not yesterday. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I saw the tweet that was promoting it.
Yeah, it was mostly a kind of a biography of Alan Colange, but it did show like the Sally Mae company on their staff trip to Hawaii. When they took their employees to Hawaii for a sales meeting.
Yeah.
And you see the person who ran Sally Mae and Navient in his 18-hole golf course that he had at his house.
Nice.
His own golf course. Yeah. So things like that. Definitely. But anyhow, thank you very much for giving me a platform to speak also.
Absolutely.
And don't let it get you down too much. I know you're looking at it. Years ago, my oldest daughter, when she was in grad school, she did AmeriCorps for 2 years.
Okay.
And that in any of my tweets. The first year she made less than $800 a month. Her rent was $385. She was working full time in AmeriCorps, and then next year she went and she worked at the Department of Education in Manhattan. She made $1,200 a month. Her rent was $1,000. And she got between, I think, $5,000 to $8,000 towards her schooling, and either debt cancellation or she could apply it to her grad school. And so many times people say, well, they should do community service. They should do community service for their loan forgiveness. And I'm thinking, that girl lived in poverty, qualified for food stamps, but she wouldn't go get them.
Right.
Had absolutely no money.
No
and did
kids.
community
And
service
yeah. Yeah.
for
It's just not, it's not feasible for most people. I was in my 20s, but I didn't, because I was like, I was actually working full time. I was working 3 jobs while I was in school, which is why it took me 10 years to get my BA. But yeah.
plug along.
What's that?
Keep plugging along.
I know. Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this. It was great to talk to you, and yeah, keep fighting the good fight. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye. All right. Well, that was Rad Futures 6 with Misty Wyscarver. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this was informative. If you enjoyed it, please share it. Head over to my Twitter at Rad Futures. You can also go to my Patreon page at Rad Futures at Patreon. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Most importantly, subscribe, because it helps my channel and it helps the YouTube algorithm recommend it to other viewers. Okay. All right. I hope you're all well. Keep your chin up and stay positive. Peace out.